Who inherits Oak Island when the Lagina brothers step back? The cameras have started answering that question without an announcement. In Season 13 of The Curse of Oak Island, Episode 24, Alex Lagina led a team trip to the Azores. He flew out with Peter Fornetti, Doug Crowell, and Italian researcher Emiliano Sacchetti, and they met archaeologist Tiago Rodrigues at the Angra do Heroísmo Museum on Terceira, working through the team's Portuguese Azores hypothesis for the island's stone shots. For 12 previous seasons, that kind of research road trip, with its museum meeting and on-camera handshake with a foreign academic, has been Rick Lagina's beat. This one was Alex's. Rick was on the trip, the lead wasn't. 3 episodes earlier, in A Sacred Symbol, Alex had been featured working alongside Craig Tester on the island's engineering work. The Season 13 promotion sequence is on camera, frame by frame. And the next chapter of the Oak Island operation is already being handed off to a small group, most of them with the same last name as the brothers who built the franchise. The museum doors, the new lead.
Okay, so the thing that we'd like to show you is a find on Lot 5, which we've recently gained access to.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a new area on the island for us.
Okay.
We only recently got access to the lot, so we haven't been over it with a metal detector ourselves.
Episode 24 is titled Overseeing the Dig, and it's the season's clearest succession beat. The trip is structured around Alex Lagina's leadership of the Azores delegation. The Portuguese Azores stone shot reframe is the narrative content of the trip. The succession beat is who's presenting it back to the team. In earlier seasons, Rick was the road trip lead. The Knights Templar research arcs and the European archive visits with foreign academics across half a dozen countries had been Rick beats. He was the one framing the findings on camera when the team reconvened in the war room. In episode 24, the framing role is Alex's. Rick is on the trip, but the structure of the screen time has shifted. The weight of this is who's now authoring the team's research direction lands on Alex. The handshake at the museum doors and the synthesis the delegation carries back to the island both belong to him, and the camera knows where to look. That isn't a small editorial move. The show's road trip framing has been one of the most consistent ways the audience has been taught to read who the team leader is. For the first time across 13 seasons, the framing puts the second generation in front, and it does it on the Azores arc, which is one of the season's load-bearing research narratives, the spine of the Portuguese Azores hypothesis that the team has been threading through multiple episodes. 2 lanes across, 1 season. Episode 24 doesn't stand alone. In Season 13, Episode 21, A Sacred Symbol, Alex is featured working with Craig Tester on the island's operational and engineering work. The side of the show Craig has historically anchored on the older generation team, Alex's pairing with Craig in that episode is the engineering counterpart to the research trip leadership 3 episodes later. Across 1 season, Alex shows up in both of the lanes the show has historically split between Rick and Craig: the research narrative lane and the engineering lane. The dual lane prominence is what distinguishes Season 13's framing of Alex from earlier seasons. Alex has been on the show for years, with diving credits and a long run of supporting roles in war room and sight scenes. What's different in Season 13 is the share of consequential narrative moments he carries. The Azores trip is the most visible piece of evidence. The Craig Tester pairing in Episode 21 is the supporting evidence. Together, they read as a deliberate promotion sequence executed across the season. An engineer by training, Alex isn't being elevated as a presenter. He's being elevated as someone the team trusts to author the framing on a research arc the team has staked its season on. Authoring framing is a different job than diving or running gear, and the people who get authoring jobs on this show are the ones who get to define what the audience is told the dig is about. 70 and 74. Rick Lagina at 74 takes a visibly less physical role across Season 13. The on-camera dig work on Lot 8, including the trench digging beside the cradle and the hands-on site presence during the spooner hammer drill scene, is Marty's. Rick is rarely in the shot when a shovel goes into the ground. The war room is still shared, and Rick still anchors the historical narrative thread the show has been running for 13 seasons. But the physical site work has shifted weight. Rick remains on the Azores trip in person, and the framing of that trip puts Alex in front of him. Marty Lagina, the financier and engineering counterpart, is committing the capital that funds the Season 14 program. The wood as indicator hypothesis that closes Season 13, with Dr. Spooner's finding that 2024 Shaft 2A wood holds the highest silver and 3rd highest gold readings on the entire island. implies a sampling-led program for the next season, and that program runs on Marty's checks. The brothers' division of labor on the show has always been historian-believer for Rick, engineer-financier for Marty. In season 13, that division begins to map onto a generational handoff. Alex takes on Rick-style framing roles. The operational engineering work continues under Marty's direct supervision. Alex's engineering training, in turn, makes him a natural bridge between the two lanes. He can carry the research narrative weight Rick has carried, and he can speak the language of the engineering operation Marty has run. Marty is 70. Rick is 74. Both men are in the band where succession planning, in any operation, becomes something a team has to do on camera rather than off. The names around the war room. The next generation on this show is, by composition, a Lagina family network. Alex Lagina is Marty's son. The two Fornettis on the show, Peter and David, are Lagina nephews and brothers, sons of John and Therese Fornetti, and they both serve as associate producers in roles that put them regularly on camera. Jack Begley is Craig Tester's stepson, and his presence on the team is structurally inseparable from the Tester family. That includes the loss of Drake Maxwell Tester in March of 2017, after whom the DMT borehole on the island is named. The borehole naming is the on-island artifact of how deeply the family network composition is built into the operation. Features on the dig site carry family names, because the operation that built them was a family. This is a factual observation about who's on this show. It's also, in observable terms, the answer the opening question is asking for. The people who inherit Oak Island are family. Every next generation on-camera role goes to a family member or a family by bond connection. Outsiders like Niven, Steele, Spooner, Michelle, and Drayton are specialists and advisors. None of them is being elevated to a framing role. The succession line is internal, and it's been internal for as long as the show has been running. That deserves to be named for what it is. The Oak Island operation is a family business, and family businesses pass through family. There's nothing strange about that on its face. It's worth naming because it makes the answer to who inherits a much narrower answer than a viewer who knows only the broadcast of the show might assume. The team on camera looks large. The team that gets a framing role is small, and the small team is related. What the brothers already own. The Lagina operation isn't only the flagship show. Beyond Oak Island extends the brand to other treasure hunt sites. Tales from Oak Island packages the flagship show's lore for additional broadcast windows. Both are produced under Rick Lagina's production banner. Whatever happens with the flagship show across the next several seasons, the franchise architecture Rick has already built will continue to generate content, and that architecture is Lagina owned. This matters for the succession question because it means stepping back from the dig isn't the same thing as stepping back from the franchise. Rick can reduce on-camera physical presence on the island while remaining the producer of multiple shows that orbit it. Marty can continue funding the dig and showing up for war room and site decisions while Alex takes more of the on-camera framing weight. The handoff to the next generation doesn't require either brother to leave the operation. Given the franchise architecture Rick has spent years building out, neither is likely to. That's part of why the succession is visible now without being announced. The infrastructure is already in place. The next generation doesn't need a transfer of legal ownership to start carrying the show. It needs more on-camera framing roles, and Season 13 delivers exactly that. The shape of the production company matters here too. The flagship show feeds the spin-offs, which feed back into the lore, which in turn shapes the next research road trip the team plans. The next road trip lands an Alex-led delegation in front of an international archaeologist for the cameras to capture. Every layer of that loop is Lagina-controlled. There's no scenario in which the family steps back from the operation while the operation continues without them, because the operation, in its current architecture, is the family. The count is all of them. The clearest single piece of evidence on the question of how this operation is being passed down is also the simplest. Count the next generation on-camera roles. Count how many of them go to a family member. The count is all of them. Alex Lagina is Marty's son. Peter and David Fornetti, the on-show associate producers, are both Lagina nephews. Jack Begley is Craig Tester's stepson, and the DMT borehole on the island commemorates his stepbrother. There's no next-generation non-family member being elevated to a framing role on this show, and there hasn't been in any of the seasons where the producers had the option to elevate one. A viewer can draw their own conclusion about whether a 13-season treasure hunt operation, passing entirely through family lines, is the natural shape of a family business, or a closed door for outside successors. Both readings are defensible. What isn't defensible is pretending the composition isn't what it is. The composition is what it is, and naming it accurately is part of any honest succession analysis. There is also something worth saying about the tester side of that family network. Jack Begley's role on the team is not abstract. The DMT borehole was named at his request after his stepbrother died at 16 from epileptic seizure complications. Drake Maxwell Tester was born July 17, 2000. He died March 26, 2017. The show's own framing in the seasons that followed treated the Testers and the Laginas as a single unit, and the forever family language was the team's, not the press's. That framing is the structural reason the Tester side and the Lagina side function as one extended family on the dig. The borehole is the on-island reminder. The succession composition is the off-island consequence. What November already sets. Season 14 is confirmed for November 3rd, 2026, with 25 episodes. Filming begins in the early summer. The chemistry-led methodology pivot from Season 13, the wood as indicator hypothesis, will dominate the dig plan. And that plan runs on Marty's capital and Spooner's sampling program. Alex's Season 13 elevation suggests he'll carry more of the on-camera framing weight in Season 14, particularly on the international research side that was historically Rick's. The next chapter of Oak Island, however long it runs, will be Alex's stage. The family network around him is already in place. Peter and David Fornetti are already on camera as associate producers. Jack Begley is already on camera as the engineering and site lieutenant the Tester side has been training for years. The franchise extensions Rick produces will continue regardless of what happens on the island itself. The succession isn't a future event. It's already on camera, episode by episode, across a season that just closed. The thing that makes it easy to miss is that none of it has been announced. There's no press release naming Alex the heir apparent. Press framing has used that language for years, but the Lagina team hasn't. The on-camera evidence is doing the announcing, and the on-camera evidence has been doing it consistently since at least episode 21. By the time season 14 opens in November, the audience will have had a full season of footage in which the handoff was, in every way that matters on television, already underway. The inheritance happens on camera. The cameras caught all of it across season 13, episode by episode, with no fanfare and no press release marking the change. The remaining question is how visible the team chooses to make the handoff in the season ahead, and whether November's opener makes Alex the named lead of the operation or lets the visual sequence keep doing the work without ever stating the obvious. The season 13 friction this succession sits inside. The season where the Lagina brothers stopped letting their on-staff archaeologists set the pace of the dig is its own story, and it's a directly related one. The same season that elevated Alex also elevated the chemistry program over the archaeological program. A sampling-led Season 14 dig plan is the kind of operation a next-generation team can run without needing to inherit the institutional relationships Rick built with archaeologists across 13 seasons. If you haven't seen the breakdown of the methodology drift between the Laginas and their on-staff archaeologists across Season 13, that's the procedural counterpart to the personnel handoff you've just heard.